Okay. We are go for the secret part 1. I just need to retweet the tweet. Find the book. Don't need to find my place because we're starting at the beginning, so that's good. Hello. Oh, you're all caught up. Fantastic. Okay. Yeah, well, I don't remember who it was either. It sounds like a plan that could have been amazing. Yeah. You save your ball bearings for your own TPK. That one was mine by right. Hey, Danny. Oh, the gang's all here. We're just gonna chat for like 10 minutes though. It was good. I had a lot of like social anxiety or something, and I thought the Speak for Women event was happening a lot later in the day than it was. So I got there late. I got to hear a speaker, but I couldn't actually hear them from the back because they didn't know how to use the microphone or something. So I felt like that Monty Python scene where Jesus is speaking, the people at the back are just like catching a couple of words. But it was nice. There were a lot of people there, even at the end of it when I turned up. There were heaps of people there, and they were all really friendly. A lady spoke who was an ex-TERF, and everyone was like super nice to her. And she was like, yeah, this kind of proves that, you know, you guys are pretty good. Flora, what are you doing? Good girl. Fitz has escaped the house twice because I let him, because it was... He came back from the vet and he just would not pee, so I let him out. He came back in for food, and then I let him out again because he was howling so much. I knew I would kill him if he stayed inside. And I just dropped $400 on that motherfucker, so I'm not going to kill him just yet. He's doing so well. Both of his eyes are fine. They're both clear. His little shaved eyebrow is... It's looking pretty good. It's grown back. He's eating and drinking so much. So it's good. I have to take him in for a checkup tomorrow at 12, unless he's doing fine. So yeah, the rally was actually really good. There were tons of young people there, kids and dogs and babies and rats. Someone had brought some rats, like pet rats. There was a cat earlier, Evelyn told me. I saw Gretel. That was really nice. She's cut her hair short. Do you know that? Sadly, I was too late to attend the meeting of Speak for Women New Zealand, but I am reliably informed by Evelyn, who was there, that it was just... No, did Evelyn tell me this? Doesn't matter, you don't care. It was like 15 people at most who just looked like elderly National Party voters who had maybe wandered into the wrong room and gotten lost. So, not exactly a thriving movement. Good. Sounds good to me. I did not meet up with the newspaper man, which is good because I really didn't have anything to say. And we're nearly 5 minutes in. Oh, I know I said I would chat for 10 minutes. I don't really want to. Well, yeah. Shut the fuck up is exactly what Stand Up for Women wants me to do. And I'm one of the people they're meant to be standing up for. I will not shut the fuck up, by the way. Okay. Alright. So. Oh, hello. We got 4 people. I've put the family tree for this one in a tweet, and I've put the link to the tweet in the video description, so I hope that's all there. Basically, Edward's son Ezra, that little 6-year-old piece of shit no one wanted to raise, he has become an adult now and has his own children who are, let me check. I haven't memorized the Fear family tree, and I apologize for that. Ezra's children are Jonathan, Abigail, and Rachel. That's what I've got from memory. Oh my god, I have remembered it. That is so weird. So he's got Jonathan, Abigail, and Rachel. I don't know if Ezra's wife is still around at this point. So at the end of The Betrayal, which is actually the name of the book we've been reading this whole time, calling The Burning. Sorry. At the end of The Betrayal, Ezra goes back to the village of Shadyside, I think. And he finds that Matthew walled up himself and Constance in their house, and they died because they walled themselves up. And he vowed vengeance on the Goods, because that's, you know, we love a cycle of vengeance, we love an Icelandic revenge saga, we love the whole thing. So, and remember that this whole story is being written down by Nora Good in the year 1900 after she has watched the Fear mansion burn with her husband Daniel inside it. And seen a bunch of ghosts inside it burning as well. So. I'm just thinking. I'm thinking about who I'm going to make the Australian. I had an idea for that. Thank you, Danny. I had an idea for that, and I think I'm going to stick to it, so. Village of Shadyside, 1900. Year of our Lord, 1900. Nora's pen scratched against the paper. Dry again. Wearily, she thought of dipping the point into the inkwell. Changed her mind, and yawning, set the pen down on the small writing table. Just for a minute. Just for 1 minute's rest. Her back ached and her fingers were cramped. She'd been scribbling furiously all night by the light of a single candle. Nora knew she had to tell her story, and she had to tell it tonight. She touched a silver pendant that hung from a chain around her neck. Her fingers picked out the silver claws, the blue stones. Then fire appeared before her closed eyes, burning in her memory. Fire that burned the innocent Susanna Good in 1692. 200 years of hatred and revenge followed Susanna's death. And then, at last, the terrible fire that consumed the Fear mansion, ... Flora. You are such a pain. Out you go, good girl. Good girl. Sorry. Nope. I think it's his son Jonathan. Who was the main character in the spit. From memory. Because, again, I haven't read these since... I read them as an adult, but a really long time ago. Nora's eyes filled with tears. Daniel. My Daniel. After so many fires, all was in ashes now. That's how fires work. Sighing sadly, Nora dipped her pen into the inkwell. No time to rest. The story must be told. She heard a noise and stopped writing. She listened. Footsteps! Someone was coming! When there's footsteps, there's feet. Footsteps. I learned that in detective school. It's how we say it. Her hands trembling, Nora frantically shoved the paper and ink into a desk drawer. No one must see this, she thought. No one can see it until it is finished, and it is far from finished. There are so many horrors left untold. And then in italics, so many horrors, ... Reminds me of Too Many Cooks for some reason. She held her breath, listening. The footsteps moved closer. Closer. Part 1. Wickham Village, Massachusetts Colony, 1737. Village of Wickham. Jonathan Fear sighed with relief as the wagon rolled past the wooden sign. Their long journey was over at last. He glanced at his father sitting beside him on the box of the wagon. Ezra Fear's face was haggard and drawn, but his black eyes sparkled with excitement. He snapped the reins with renewed energy, and the chestnut horse trotted faster down the rutted, tree-lined road. Lucky road. We are here, Jonathan, Ezra said to his son. After all those weeks in this wagon, we are finally in Wickham. George Good is going to wish he had never been born, to be baby George that we could never forget about. Ezra's voice dipped lower, almost to a whisper. Revenge at last. It will be so sweet. Remember that George has done nothing to Ezra. It was William Good, Susanna's father, and baby George's father, now grown man George, presumably, and William pretending to be his other son that he didn't actually have. They were the ones who wronged his family, but, whatever. Jonathan felt a cold chill. Revenge? Revenge for what? That's right. I still do not understand, Jonathan thought. Who is George Good? I have never even met anyone named Good. Goods have never done me any harm. So why did we have to leave the farm in Pennsylvania? Why did we spend the last 6 months driving east in this cramped and dirty wagon? It's a blood feud baby. Presumably now a blood feud grown man. Jonathan stole a glance at his father's gaunt face. We've come here to seek revenge against the Goods, Papa says. Everything he does is for revenge. Sometimes I think Papa is crazy. Thank you. Thank you. Jonathan immediately wished he could take back that thought. How could I think such a thing? He scolded himself. He is my father. He cannot be crazy. There must be a reason for the misery we have suffered. There must be. I have searched for the Goods through 5 colonies, Ezra muttered, and found no one. But now... He paused to lift his hat and run a bony hand through his straight black hair. Now I feel sure. I know they are here. I know I have found them at last. Ezra, Jonathan's mother called from the back of the wagon. Please slow down. The girls are being tossed all around. His kids are just bouncing off the top of this covered wagon. Ezra scowled and pulled on the reins. Jonathan turned on the box and looked back into the covered wagon. His mother, Jane, and his 2 sisters, Abigail and Rachel, were huddled back there, along with all the family's possessions. Pots and pans, dishes, utensils, clothes, blankets, the Fear family Bible, and the little food they had left. We have arrived, Mama, Jonathan said quietly. He wondered whether she would be glad or sorry. Hurrah! Cried 3-year-old Rachel, clapping her hands. She was a chubby angel in a homespun muslin shift with a mop of blonde curls peeking out from under her cap. I'm happy to read out the description of Rachel as a chubby 3-year-old because she's 3. You know, at 3 they kind of are, mostly. Jane Fear only nodded. The mother. The I for an I bit is underlined so many times it's been crossed out by accident, and then written back in over top of some other shit. Something about cheeks. We don't know. Jane Fear only nodded. She was fair with worry lines beside her clear blue eyes. She wore a printed linen dress and a loose white cap. I will be so happy to leave this wagon, said Abigail, a red-haired 8-year-old with mischievous blue eyes. She wore a blue and white striped linen dress and a white cap with blue ribbons, such as you might have seen on Dark Shadows. She looked up to her brother Jonathan, who at almost 12 was nearly grown up. Mama, will we be able to stop for good this time? Will we be able to sleep in our bed tonight? I hope so, Abigail, Jane said. I will ask Papa, Abigail said. She started for the front of the wagon, but her mother pulled her back. Do not bother about Papa about that now, Jane whispered. He has other matters on his mind. He always has other matters on his mind, Jonathan thought with some bitterness. Or rather, one other matter. Yeah. Well, there are a lot of foolish things done in these books. I don't know if we can make a list of, like, the most. Jonathan faced front again and lowered his black hat over his eyes. He wore his long brown hair tied back. His white linen shirt was dirty from weeks of travelling, and he was growing out of his brown homespun waistcoat and knee breeches. Somebody got a book about the history of costume. As soon as we're settled down, he thought, Mama will have to make me some new clothes. No one passed them as they rolled down the leafy lane toward the village, not on horseback or on foot. It seems strangely quiet here, Jonathan thought. It is not the Sabbath. Where is everyone? At last he saw a carriage up ahead. It was headed toward them on its way out of town. Jonathan kept his eyes on the carriage as they approached it. It was shiny and black, a fancy carriage for rich people. But wait, he thought, the carriage is not moving, and where are the horses? Something is wrong, he realized. Something is terribly wrong. The Fear's wagon drew closer. Jonathan could now see 2 horses, but they were lying on the ground. Are they hurt? He wondered, leaning so far forward he nearly fell. Are they dead? Closer. A foul smell invaded Jonathan's nostrils. He nearly gagged. He could see the horses clearly now, long dead. Their flesh was rotting, their bones shoving up through the decaying skin. Ooh, woo, woo, woo! Jonathan heard his mother utter a cry of shock. They didn't say how to utter the cry. It's up to my interpretation. Yeah, it is a consistently stupid thing, yeah, it's true. He glanced back into the wagon. His mother had pulled his 2 sisters close and was covering their eyes. They're like colonial children. I'm pretty sure they've seen dead horses before. Ezra slowed the wagon but did not stop. Why was it left here on the road? Jonathan wondered. Why would people abandon such a fine carriage? The wagon wheels creaked as they pulled close enough for Jonathan to see inside the carriage. To his astonishment, the carriage was not empty. 3 women were inside, dressed in gowns of fine silk and white lace caps. Jonathan stared hard at the women, at their faces. The faces were purple, nothing but bone and chunks of decaying flesh poking out from beneath their fancy caps.
They're dead, Jonathan realized, covering his nose with his hand. And they've been dead a long, long time. Rotting corpses, going nowhere in a fancy carriage. Jonathan stifled a cry and covered his face with both hands. Why have these decaying bodies been left here? He wondered. Why have the villagers not taken them away to be buried? Was the carriage and its rotten cargo left here as a warning? Stay away! That's in italics. I'm not sure who's doing that. I think Jonathan's just imagining it. Still holding his breath from the stench, Jonathan turned to gaze at his father. Detective Jonathan's on the case. Or is it Dr. Jonathan? He diagnosed them, I think. Ezra was staring intently into the carriage window. Was he shocked by the figures inside? Jonathan could not tell. His father's face revealed no emotion. Ezra, Jane pleaded, her voice tight and shrill. Turn back. We cannot stay here. That carriage, those women. I have such a bad feeling. Yeah, no shit. Ezra turned and silently glared at her in answer. She kept her eyes leveled on him defiantly. Then, without a word, he snapped the reins and urged the horse forward. They headed into town. My lash is coming off. It's like halfway. It's half off. 50% off. Only at Briscoe's and on my lash line. Uh-oh. A little bit of the glue went on my bottom bit of my eye. It's all good. It's fine. It doesn't matter. Ezra guided the wagon into the village common and stopped. Jonathan glanced around. No sign of life. Not another person in sight. Yeah, the whole town is frickin' Marie Celesting, and I don't know, it just doesn't seem very hospitable. Jonathan could hold the questions back no longer. Papa, why are we here? Why are we searching for the goods? What did they do to you? Jonathan, hush! His mother cried. Her eyes were wide with fright and warning. For a moment no one spoke. Jonathan turned from his mother back to his father. What have I done? He wondered. What will Papa do to me? And then Ezra spoke. He is old enough now, Jane. He is right to ask these questions. He must know the truth. Flora's old enough to ask to come inside again. Good girl. Good girl. There you go. I love her. With a groan, Ezra climbed down from the wagon and beckoned to his son. Come with me, boy. I will come too, said Abigail. Her mother pulled her back inside. No, Abigail, you will stay here with me. Is my wig floating backwards? I don't think so. I think it's fine. Jonathan followed Ezra across the common. Shit, sorry, I'm just like... I'm falling apart. Jonathan followed Ezra across the common. He stopped short when he saw a man locked in the stocks. His head and hands thrust through the 3 holes in the wooden frame. His eyes were open and staring, but empty. Dead! Jonathan's stomach lurched. Papa! He managed to choke out. But Ezra strode quickly past the wide-eyed corpse. Our family once lived here, in Wickham, Ezra told Jonathan. My grandfather was the magistrate. Everyone knew him and his brother to be good and righteous men, but that very righteousness ruined their lives. Revenging out of feuding is a man's business. For me and my 12-year-old son to walk through this obstacle course of corpses is very normal. Yeah, man, Ezra's been told a very different story than we have. Very righteousness ruined their lives. How could that be? Jonathan wondered, but he said nothing. Witches were discovered in Wickham. My grandfather had them burned at the stake. 2 of them were Susanna and Martha Good. They were put on trial by my grandfather, found guilty, and burned. Now Jonathan swallowed hard. Your grandfather, he burned people at the stake? Not people, witches, Ezra boomed. Vile and evil creatures of the devil. Ezra paused, breathing hard. My grandfather and his brother did their duty. Jonathan shuddered at the thought of women being burned alive, but he said nothing. Our family moved from Wickham to Pennsylvania, Ezra continued, calmer now. But William Good, the father of Susanna, the husband of Martha, followed them. He believed his wife and daughter to be innocent. Driven by revenge, William used dark powers against my grandfather and his family. William disguised himself as a young man. He took advantage of my Aunt Mary's innocence and... Ezra paused again, searching for words. Yeah, that part of it was so gross. And what, Papa? William Good destroyed our family. He killed my grandfather and my mother. The rest he drove insane. I found my great-uncle and his wife buried behind a brick wall. Nothing left of them but bones. Jonathan gasped. This was his family history. And it was the reason behind his father's obsession. It explained why his father hated the Goods with such passion. Still, something did not make sense to Jonathan. In his almost 12 years, Jonathan had never seen a sign of this William Good or his black magic. Probably because it's like 40 years on, and he was not young at the time. I don't know. No member of the Good family had ever appeared during Jonathan's life to seek revenge against the Fears. So why was Ezra keeping the evil feud alive? Why was Ezra determined to spend his life searching for goods and services? Papa, Jonathan asked hesitantly, is William Good still alive? I do not know, Ezra replied bitterly. He would be very old. I do know he had a son, George. George used to be a baby, but he must be a man by now. Very unlikely he's still a baby. Well, if he is, I'm gonna fucking kill him. George lived in Wickham once. I am hoping. He did not finish the sentence, but Jonathan knew what he was hoping. He hoped to find this George Good, or other Goods, and bring them misery. And that is why we have come to Wickham, Jonathan realized. But so far we have not seen a living soul, only corpses. This town must be cursed. Come, Ezra said, we will go to the tavern and ask after the goods. Ezra led Jonathan up the tavern steps. What does he think he's going to find? The innkeeper will tell us what has happened, Jonathan thought. Innkeepers always know the news. Ezra opened the tavern door. They stepped inside. The room was empty. The fireplace stood cold and dark, the tables covered with dust and cobwebs. Plates of food had rotted on one of the tables. It may have been a meal of roast lamb and a pudding. Rats scurried around the table, gnawing at the mold-covered meal. Ezra grunted unhappily, his features set in disappointment. A little bit Pingu. Jonathan saw a pile of dust-covered letters on the bar, probably left there for the villagers to pick up. The letters had been delivered a long time ago. Oh my god. I'm getting tired of getting drunk. Ready? Ooh. I left the house even though I had very little energy or like whatever. And I'm having a classic Coca-Cola. Hoo-hoo-hoo. The floorboards creaked under Ezra's boots as he walked over to the bar to sort through the letters. He rubbed the dust from the front of the envelope and carefully studied the address. "Papa," said Jonathan.
Ezra looked up at his son. "Go find the village magistrate's house," he ordered. "Ask if the magistrate will see me. I will be along in a minute." "What does he think?" "Yes, sir," Jonathan replied meekly and walked quickly from the tavern. Outside, he hesitated. Where could he find the magistrate? The street was empty. There was no one to ask. And if there were even one person still alive, why wouldn't they have been burying the rest? I don't know. Then he spotted a large house on the other side of the common. It was the grandest house in the village, sided with clapboards weathered brown and enclosed by an unpainted picket fence. It stood 2 stories tall with glass windows and 2 chimneys. "Welcome to Wickham Cribs. This must be the magistrate. Oh, sorry. This must be the magistrate's house," Jonathan told himself, making his way across the common, half walking, half running. It felt good to run after his long journey. Jonathan lifted the heavy brass door knocker and let it drop. No answer. How strange that such a fine house should have a broken parlour window, he thought. Not drawing any conclusions from that, he cupped his hand around his eyes and peered into the window beside the door. The parlour was dark. He turned the doorknob and uttered a soft cry of surprise when the door opened easily at his touch. "Hello," he called. His voice echoed through the house. Jonathan quietly stepped inside. "Hello," he repeated in a trembling voice. "I am here to see the magistrate." The house remained silent. Jonathan made his way into the parlour. The heavy thud of his boots on the floorboards was the only sound. "Hello?" No one was in the parlour, which led to a smaller room. Some kind of office, perhaps. "Hello, is the magistrate at home?" Jonathan stepped into the second doorway. Squinting into the dim light, Jonathan saw an old man at a desk with his back to the door. Oh man, I've got an upset stomach. Fuck, that's not good. Okay, I'm going to read you the rest of this real quick. Jonathan can make out long grey hair falling onto the collar of a brown coat. Nope, we don't got time. See you guys in a second. It's so embarrassing. Oh no. Wait.